Tensions in the Middle East have reached new heights after Iran warned it was entitled and obligated to respond to strikes by Israel overnight. Israel's military says it targeted military installations in a limited response to Iran's barrage of missiles on Israel earlier this month. But Tehran has said that was justifiable retaliation for earlier Israeli actions. Now, with both nations locked in a cycle of aggression, the world watches on, fearing this tit-for-tat could spiral further. Peter Smith reports from Tel Aviv.
Israel promised it was going to strike back against Iran, and in the early hours of this morning, under cover of darkness, they finally carried out their response. The Israeli Air Force led the attack, travelling more than 3,000 miles deep into Iranian territory, targeting 3 locations, including the capital Tehran. There were 3 waves of the attack, the first to take out Iran's air defence systems, which you can see here firing into the night sky. Today, Iran has downplayed the attack. The full extent of the damage is not yet clear. You can see some here. But we managed to find one witness to the bombings in Tehran. It was around 2:30 in the morning, he says. I was staying up late to study when I heard the sounds like lightning, but much louder. Then 4 more bangs. Our house shook. My sister ran outside shouting, "War, war. Israel has attacked Iran." The Iranian military says 4 of its soldiers were killed. Notably, though, nuclear facilities were not targeted, nor were the oil fields. That more limited scope relative to what has been discussed, an indicator that Israel would like to keep its war with Iran proportionate.
If the regime in Iran were to make the mistake of beginning a new round of escalation, we will be obligated to respond.
That call for containment has been echoed by Israel's closest allies, the United States and the UK.
We need to avoid further regional escalation and urge all sides to show restraint. Iran should not respond.
Iran, however, says it is entitled and obligated to defend itself. It has been almost a month now since it fired 181 ballistic missiles at Israel. The Israeli military is now on high alert for Iran's retaliation, either from Iran directly or from its proxies in Hezbollah, Hamas, or even the Houthis in Yemen. And if Iran does now respond to Israel's attack, the fear from a watching world is what starts as a military tit-for-tat could rapidly escalate, and this whole region could be plunged into a much wider war.
More from Peter in Tel Aviv in a moment, but first to Robert Moore, who is in Washington. Robert, the White House seems to be pressing Israel to keep its response from escalating the conflicts further.
That is right, and President Biden spoke to reporters in Pennsylvania just a short time ago, saying he very much hopes this is the end of the retaliatory strikes. And certainly behind the scenes, US national security officials are taking a lot of the credit for the fact that Israel struck only military targets inside Iran. But this being Washington at this moment, there is a massive political dimension to all of this. In 10 days, American voters go to the polls with a humanitarian crisis still in northern Gaza, with that ceasefire and hostage deal proving ever more elusive, and with a war in Lebanon. So in a very real sense, for the White House, sort of national security and political concerns are merging. In a tight election, might the global and regional turmoil tip the balance away from Vice President Harris and give power back to Donald Trump?
Robert, thank you. And Peter, Israel seems to have resisted a stronger strike, but the question now is whether or not Iran will retaliate.
Yeah, we have to remind ourselves that Israel had promised the world it was going to retaliate against Iran, and the language used, they said it was going to be a surprise and it was going to be deadly. I think the surprise here is how relatively tame the response was, but it is somewhat symbolic. Israel has sent its air force deep into Iranian territory and brought all of their personnel back again to Israel without suffering any losses. That is a demonstration of strength, and what they've also done is undermines Iran's reputation. Iran in many respects seen as a big brother to Hezbollah and Hamas, both of which have just lost their leaders. So Iran will be feeling sore, and it's unlikely that this will be the conclusion the UK and the US might hope it will be.